Imagine checking into a hotel room, expecting a peaceful night's sleep, only to end up dead, without any visible signs of foul play. Today, we're diving into the chilling and perplexing story of Greg Fleniken, whose mysterious death rocked the small town of Beaumont, Texas. This case is filled with twists and turns, and the truth is more shocking than you could ever imagine.
Pardon the interruption. I really need you to like my content. And if you subscribe, that helps more than you know. Most of my videos have been produced with victims and their families. But as a creator, I can't spam my content. Please share it. Please help me grow. Thank you. Now, back to the case.
Stay with us as we delve into the puzzling murder of Greg Fleniken. Let's get into it. Greg Fleniken was an unassuming man in his mid-50s, working as a landman in the oil industry. He was known for his calm demeanor and friendly nature, and often stayed at the Elegante Hotel in Beaumont, Texas, while on business trips. On September 15th, 2010, Greg's life came to a shocking and unexpected end. That night, Greg was staying in room 348, a room he'd stayed in many times before. However, this time would be different. He was found the next morning, lying on the floor next to his bed, lifeless. At first glance, there seemed to be no signs of struggle or injury. How did a seemingly healthy man die suddenly in his hotel room, leaving no apparent clues behind? Was it a natural death? Or was there something more sinister at play? The initial investigation didn't reveal much. The hotel room was locked, there was no sign of forced entry, and there were no visible signs of injuries on Greg's body. The police initially suspected a heart attack or some other natural cause of death. However, when the autopsy results came in, things took a surprising turn. The medical examiner discovered that Greg's internal organs were severely damaged, as if he had been brutally beaten. His liver was almost sliced in half, and his ribs were broken. But how could that be, when there were no external injuries to suggest such violence? Local authorities were baffled and couldn't connect the dots. The case eventually went cold, but 6 months later, the insurance company that held the policy on Greg's life hired a renowned private investigator named Ken Brennan to look into the case. With dogged determination, Brennan began to retrace Greg's final hours, examining every detail of the case. Brennan soon discovered that on the night of Greg's death, a group of electricians had been staying in the room next to his. They had been partying, drinking, and doing drugs, creating a ruckus that had been reported by other hotel guests. However, the hotel staff hadn't connected their behavior to Greg's death. As Brennan dug deeper, he found that one of the electricians, Lance Mueller, had fired a gun in his room that night. The bullet had traveled through the wall into Greg's room and struck him in the chest. Incredibly, the small entry wound would have been overlooked during the initial investigation. The trajectory of the bullet perfectly matched the damage to Greg's internal organs. The seemingly unexplainable murder suddenly had a suspect. Brennan's investigation revealed that Mueller and his colleagues had indeed been partying that night, and at some point, Mueller had picked up a 9mm pistol owned by his co-worker Trent Pisano. Despite being warned by Pisano not to touch the gun, Mueller proceeded to play with it, ultimately pulling the trigger and inadvertently firing the fatal shot. Once Brennan uncovered this critical piece of evidence, he presented his findings to the Beaumont Police Department. The police promptly reopened the case and conducted their own investigation, corroborating Brennan's findings. Armed with this new information, the police arrested Lance Mueller and Trent Pisano. Mueller was charged with manslaughter, while Pisano was charged as an accessory after the fact for helping Mueller cover up the shooting. The police also discovered that, in an attempt to cover up their actions, Mueller and Pisano had returned to their room after realizing the severity of the situation. They wiped down the gun, disassembled it, and discarded the parts in various dumpsters around the city. Mueller initially denied any involvement in the shooting, claiming he had no idea how the bullet had ended up in Greg's room. However, when faced with the overwhelming evidence, he eventually admitted to firing the gun, but insisted it was an accident. The trial of Lance Mueller and Trent Pisano was a highly publicized event. The prosecution argued that Mueller had been negligent and reckless, and that his actions had directly led to Greg's untimely death. Meanwhile, Pisano was accused of helping Mueller cover up the crime, thereby making him an accessory. Throughout the trial, the defense maintained that the shooting had been an unfortunate accident and that Mueller had never intended to harm anyone. They also claimed that Pisano's actions were driven by fear and panic rather than criminal intent. In the end, the jury agreed with the prosecution. Lance Mueller was convicted of manslaughter, receiving a 10-year prison sentence. Trent Pisano, on the other hand, was found guilty of being an accessory after the fact and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. The murder of Greg Fleniken is a haunting reminder that life can change in an instant, and that seemingly innocuous decisions can have tragic consequences. Greg simply checked into a hotel, as he had done countless times before, never suspecting that he would become the victim of a senseless crime. The case also highlights the importance of thorough and meticulous investigation. It was only through the tireless work of Ken Brennan that the truth behind Greg's death was finally revealed, bringing closure to his family and friends. In a world where gun violence continues to be a pressing issue, this story serves as a stark reminder of the responsibility that comes with owning a firearm. The consequences of negligence and recklessness can be catastrophic, and in this case, they led to the loss of an innocent life. As we wrap up, we're left to ponder the fragility of life, the importance of seeking justice, and the responsibility we all have to ensure the safety of ourselves and others. The case of Greg Fleniken is a cautionary tale, one that will continue to resonate and intrigue us for years to come. Do you think justice was served? How do you feel about the sentences given to Lance Mueller and Trent Pisano? Let us know in the comments below. Lastly, if you have any suggestions for other cases you'd like us to cover, please leave them in the comments as well. We're always on the lookout for intriguing and mysterious stories to share with our audience. Thank you for joining us for the tragic story of Greg Fleniken. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth explorations into the world's most puzzling and chilling cases.